today, guys? Hope we're all having a good day, blended day. Hope everything's going well. We're doing this more intermittently now than we have in the past, and quite simply because it's Facebook has just become more difficult to work with, plain and simple. And I wish they were a little bit more user-friendly, but they seem to put up a lot of roadblocks. However, it is our job to overcome roadblocks, not to be stymied by them. Anyways, I want to talk about a couple of things here today, and what I really talked about is can we see a path to more production with our business right now? And the answer is emphatically yes. We certainly can do it. But I don't know if that's necessarily the question that we want to be asking ourselves right now if we're a loan officer or a real estate agent. I think the question that we want to be asking ourselves is, what should we be doing to occupy our time right now? Now, professionally speaking, we've got a one-track mind. You know, find your prey, club it over the head, and drag it back to the cave. That's pretty much what we do. But is that always going to be the best bet? Is that where we need to be with our business? And I'm here to tell you that I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think there's other things that we could be doing that is higher and better use of our time, particularly right now. Case in point, the markets in general are cyclical. That means they go up and they come down. This has always been the case in the long, illustrious history of real estate and mortgage lending. This has always been the case. Now, the thing is that when things slow down, the general inclination is to do one of a couple of things. The first one is to find fault with the market or things that are extemporary, outside of ourselves, that are responsible for it. So in other words, things are going slow right now, well, because the business is slow, because interest rates are high, because underwriting guidelines have tightened up, because there's not enough inventory, because houses are too expensive, because of COVID, because of inflation. These are all reasons why business isn't as good as it could be. You know, here's the thing. When we start to look at the overall numbers, the difference between a great market and a horrible market is a surprisingly slim margin. So, for example, if the market falls off by 20%, 20 to 30%, that's considered a fairly significant jump. If your business falls off by 20 to 30%, all that means is you need to work 20 to 30% smarter or harder. Smarter and or harder. Smarter being the operative term. That's where we want to be. And is this something that we're doing right now? That would be kind of one example of it. Now, we have a couple of things that have recently happened that I want to explain to you what these mixed messages are and why there is opportunity here. So just recently, there was a study done from loan officers saying the crackdown has begun. The Fed Senior Loan Officer Opinion Survey, that's right, the Federal Reserve Senior Loan Officer Opinion Survey, bet you didn't know there was one of those, showed that the bulk of banks were steadily tightening credit, a process that has been associated with recessions. Now, when I look at how tight our credit is right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's about an 8. And in fact, if we go back all the way to the beginning of 1990, which is going to put us a solid 32 years into this thing, we've only seen credit as tight or tighter than it's currently been right now in 2001, which was recent. And that's when we saw our subprime loans, and I talked about this on the National Real Estate Post, kind of went down. We saw this in 2009 after the Great Recession, obviously, when there was just nothing going on and all the subprime loans disappeared. We saw this back in 2000, at the conclusion of 2000. It's the Y2K hangover. And all the way back to the beginning of 1990 or 1989. That comes out to an average of once every 8 years, 9 years. So it's a remarkably small amount of time when this type of stuff is taking place. Now, here's what's really important to understand about this. At times when we've seen credit tightening and credit availability going down, a very interesting thing happens at the same time. As credit availability starts to go down, what happens is it turns around and makes a decisive change in the opposite direction shortly thereafter. It's almost as if we go and we tighten, and once we hit this apex snap, credit availability comes charging back into the equation. Now, here's another thing that's very interesting. Credit availability always tightens heading into a recession. Credit availability always loosens coming out of a recession. The Fed has been trying desperately to put us in a recession, to curb inflation, which I always thought was just crazy. You know, if you kill the patient to stop the cancer, that's the Fed's approach. That's the Fed's administering medicine to an ailment. Kill the patient to cure the cancer. Just on a side note here, the problem is that we just keep spending money. We're not getting the message from the Fed that we need to stop spending money and getting curb inflation a little bit, but there's so many more issues at it that are far beyond my pay grade or my education level. But what I can do is I can look at a graph and read it, and I know right now, like, the idea of slowing an economy down, once we do get to the point where it's slow enough, then we're going to start to open credit availability up again, and that's going to create the next wave for another great market that should sustain itself for 9 or 10 years. Okay, we get that. What do you do now? All right, well, if we can accept the inevitable that things are going to be slower right now, then you should look at this time that we're in right now as vitally as important to your business as when shit is super, super busy. Right now, today, in time, this is more important or as important as it is when you're closing transactions. This is an extraordinary opportunity that you guys have. Well, what does that mean, Brian? Well, what it means is this, is right now you have a chance to go ahead and reconsider the very foundational issues of your business and what's important to you. Things that you've taken to be as absolutes, and then reconsider those from the ground up and rebuild your business, because the business of tomorrow, I've said this time and time again, is not going to look like the business of yesterday. We are reimagining and reinventing the mortgage and real estate markets right before our eyes. In the real estate industry, we saw this revolution take place over the past, I don't know, probably 10 years, but really more over the past 5 years. We saw this massive influx of technology, didn't we? These disruptors is what they call them, to come into the real estate space and say, we've got a better way to go ahead and sell real estate in this country. And we believe in it so much that we're going to take it to Wall Street, where we're going to get backings of multiple billions of dollars for multiple platforms to go in here to replace and automate what a real estate agent and a mortgage lender does, but primarily with the real estate agents. I'm talking about Zillow jumping into real estate. I'm talking about Open Door. I'm talking about OfferPad, how they all jumped into this to replace real estate agents. Only come to find that it was cost more money. It wasn't nearly as efficient. It didn't work as well for the consumer, and the customer service was for absolute crap. And those multi-billion-dollar companies of a couple of years ago are now penny stocks today. True. How does that happen? Well, because the disruption didn't really work. But that should send a shot across the bow of every real estate agent in this country that tells you that a lot of people are looking at the commissions that you make right now and saying, it's not that you're necessarily making too much. And this is the dirty little secret here. It's not that real estate agents are making too much of their commissions. It's just that Wall Street sees the amount of money you're making on your commissions and says, I want a piece of that pie. There's nothing to do with what you're making. It has to do that other people want what you got. And if we can find a way to automate 90% of what you do, shit, there is a cash cow there that you could milk forever. It's the golden goose that keeps laying eggs. It's a disruption. We saw that. We're seeing it to the mortgage industry right now too. This is happening right before our eyes. After all, you can get an automated verification of employment, verification of deposit. You can go directly to the IRS. You can pull credit reports. You can get everything. Public records, everything. You don't even really need the borrower to get this information. You can send out all your verifications. What do we need the loan officer for? Boy, it really starts to make you look, well, hold on a second here. If this is the case and you're building a case saying that the loan officer and the real estate agent aren't needed, then why are you telling me in the same breath that these companies are failing? Because they have failed in the past. Now, they failed because a lack of imagination, and because, quite frankly, they're limited in scope in terms of what they can do. And changing markets are not good when you're running your entire business off an algorithm. If you have a static algorithm in a dynamic industry, that algorithm is not going to work tomorrow as it did yesterday. It doesn't have the capability of dynamic abstract thinking like human beings do. It just doesn't. We've proven this time and time again now. But it is happening to our business, and it does require us, the individuals, the people, the humans. It is incumbent upon us to go out there and see what we need to do. And these are the markets, the slow times, when we can actually start to reconsider where we're at and change what our truths are for tomorrow. I want you to do this. This is a great little exercise for you to do. I want you to take what your old truths are. Well, if we can accept the fact that we have old truths, then we have to have new truths, don't we? There's old truths, there's new truths. What does that mean? Well, if we have old truths, and if we can accept that, if we can come to terms with that, me and you, then we can figure out what new truths are. But then we want to find what absolute truths are. Okay, let me give you an example. So I just did my weekly webinar about changing markets, and I was speaking with a great friend and top producing loan officer, Shannon Hoff, good friend of mine. And so we were talking about what she's doing to get through this market. She said a couple of things that I thought was very interesting. One, yeah, this market is hard on her, but she understands where her role is. She says she spends half of all of her energy right now trying to motivate her team of referral partners to get up and be more energized and enthusiastic about their business so they can close more deals. Because if she can get her real estate agent partners all worked up, guess what happens? They close more deals, she makes more money, everybody wins. But it's half of her energy. Now that's hard to do when your business is suffering as well, isn't it? Okay, so maybe that's a truth today. Is motivation is a truth today where it simply wasn't true yesterday. Is it an absolute truth? No. There's going to be markets where it's not required. So that would be a new truth, not an old truth. That would be a new truth, because we need to reinvigorate our agents, and we can't let them get down in the doldrums. It's incumbent upon us and other folks to, hey, let's get our team out there. Let's go sit down. Let's go work our open houses. She even said she does Popeyes, which I think is great. And I guarantee she's doing more business than you. And she's doing Popeyes right now, which is remarkable. But that would be a new truth, is going out there and trying to encourage them, putting on the proverbial pom-poms and getting everyone worked up to say, hey, hold on, we're better than this. Let's go prove it. Let's prove it to ourselves. Let's prove it to the industry that we can find deals where they simply didn't exist. That's a new truth. She also said something that I thought was interesting. She says, okay, well, I do my list. I call 20 to 30 people a day. I've always done that for my entire business, and I will always do it. She has her hour of power calling, but then she says, oh, it works so well that we do 2 hours of power calling. I think they do this 3 days a week. It doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is she's persistent and consistent with it, that if it's 2 or 3 days that it's working for, that was an old truth. That is a new truth. And that one is a universal truth. It's always going to be here, isn't it? It's a timeless truth. So look at your business and what you do and tell me what your old truths, your new truths, and what your universal truths are. And do you have those? And if we don't, we need to sit down and think about it. And here's the kicker with this, guys. It's going to be different for everybody. Here's some information that we could provide to create marketing opportunities around. So this just came out today that existing U.S. home sales, they went down in April and inventory climbed above 1 million units. Economic headwinds and booming interest rates pushed sales down by 3.4% in April as inventory went up 7.2% in March, according to the National Association of Realtors data that was released just today. All right, sales went down at the same time inventory went up. Good news, bad news? What is it? I say it's good news. Here's the thing. Sales are down, inventory up. Sales are down for a litany of reasons. Tightening of credit is one of them. Tightening of credit is going to ultimately have an unintended consequence of raising interest rates in an already aggressively rising interest rate environment that we have right now. And I noticed that we got a couple of price changes today as well. Rates went up again today. But that's going to limit our buying power, and that's going to pull property values down. And that's precisely what's taking place. When we have home sales going down and inventory going up, there's only one thing that can happen. If you've ever taken an Econ 101 class, and that means home values are going to come down. Is that a bad thing? Not if you're selling real estate for a living. Who in the hell doesn't like a sale? You ever work on a car lot? Shit's not moving. What do? You have a sale, put balloons up. Properties aren't moving? Great. Have a sale, put balloons up. How do you have a sale in real estate? Property values going down while rates remain stagnant. Property values going down when rates are remaining stagnant means it has the effect of essentially lowering interest rates, because your overall monthly payment, which is what people ultimately are looking at, is going to come down, bring more buyers to the table, and then a new equilibrium at a lower sales price will be found. And that new lower equilibrium will turn into more transactions because you have more buyers, you have more sellers, and when you have more buyers and sellers that are ready, willing, and able, you'll get more transactions. The question then becomes is, where do you fit in the whole thing? So what we know right now is that the market is going to be picking up. So we are having a slow recovery to our spring, which we generally get a fairly decent boost, but the big boost is coming next month. We've already got the information right now that tells us this is the direction it's going to go. The question then is what are we doing about it? Now, a lot of you, it's really easy to be jaded and say, where I'm at right now, everything is working just fine. Okay, that's great. How many transactions are you closing per month? Is that good? How about this one? Try this one on for size. I started looking up what your average loan officer makes across the country, and the numbers are all over the board. They're absolutely all over the board. But I found something interesting that I wasn't looking for that I want to share with you. According to one source, and I believe this would be Fred, the St. Louis Federal Reserve Board, nationwide, you're looking at loan officers making $129,346 on average. In California, $117,902. So you're telling me that nationwide people are making $12,000 more bucks on average annually than somebody slinging loans in California? Is that possible? First of all, I don't even know if it's possible. This is a stat I pulled. They vary, but let's say it is true. Why would that be? How could you have the highest sales prices in the hottest market, one of the hottest states in the country, where your loan officer is making less than somebody, on the national average, states that include North Dakota and Arkansas and Alabama and Mississippi? How is that even possible? Well, it's very simple. We have too many loan officers here. We are saturated with loan officers, which means you've got more loan officers per capita than other states. That means there are more loan officers vying for fewer transactions. So you could be in Missouri as a loan officer and doing loans at 2/3 the sales price on average that you're going to get here in California. But when you have 1/3 the number of loan officers as we have in California, that means you could double or triple what the production is, and your income could actually exceed what we have in high-cost states like California and New York. Is that possible? You bet your ass it is. Another study came out that said the average income for a loan officer per year is $117,902. And yet I have another one, and this one comes from Intuit, intuit.com. They say the average salary for California, by the way, this is interchangeable for any state. The average income for a loan officer in California is $86,500 per year. Now, get this. Mortgage loan officer salaries in California can vary between $24,000 and $327,000. Your income as a loan officer, as a peer in this business, two people could be peers. Two people can hold the same license. They can work for the same company in the same town, and they could have cubicles right next to each other, as if people still work like that, but you get the point. They could wear the same clothes, they could drive the same cars, have the same number of kids, everything. Have the same titles with the same number of years in the business, and one makes $24,000 a year and the other one makes $300,000 a year. Is that possible? And the answer is obviously, yes, it is possible. Not only is it possible, it happens all the time. Can you name another industry where that's the case outside of maybe real estate? Two people with the same job, same office, same city, same years experience, same everything, and one's making 20 grand a year and the other one's making 300,000 a year. What business does this happen in? There's not another one in the country. It doesn't happen. You don't have sways that says somebody is living far beyond the median and average of a community, and the other one is living in absolute destitute. The other one is absolutely destitute, living at near or below poverty levels. And yet that's the case in mortgage lending and real estate. So, there's something that I wrote down that I was thinking about this. Well, if you're making $24,000, you're underachieving. If you're making $300,000, you're kicking ass. But really, if you're making $24,000 a year, are you underachieving? See, in our business, underachieving is a code for failing. And failing is a strategy. How is that strategy working for you? How is failure as a strategy working for you? I know it's a little rough around the corners to say that, but it is kind of effectively true, isn't it? What purpose is failure serving you? We need to think about our business in these terms if we're not hitting our goals. If we are to believe that an income can range from $20,000 to $300,000 a year, and it absolutely can. How about this one? A recent study found loan officers in the state of California who have 1 year experience. A loan officer with 1 year experience made last year $177,000. Somebody with more than 10 years experience made $141,000. How is that possible? I got 10 years in. That's a bunch of bullshit, Brian. You sure? Maybe that loan officer with 10 years in is so damn smart that they talk themselves out of good ideas. Maybe that loan officer with 10 years in is just a little bit too jaded and is not willing to enthusiastically run their head into a brick wall, where the new person might. Well, it has a lot to do with 2001 when rates are 2 3/4%, Brian. Yep, I bet it does. Doesn't change the fact that they still made more money. Maybe they were working 10, 12, 14 hours a day because the loans were easy to pick, and they did. I remember the first time I closed a loan, I looked at my commission check, and I swear to God, I looked around and figured out who was going to get pissed off at me. I did. I'm like, you mean to tell me I made $4,300? I'm looking around like, shit. Am I getting in trouble? And everybody was happy. I called the realtors up nervous. They were happy. Called the borrower up. He was happy. Called my boss up. He was happy. Talked to my processor. They were happy. All I got to do is talk people into using me and not using Larry around the corner. And I get $4,300 checks. And people are happy? I get to make people happy and make $4,300 checks? Get out of my way. Brian's going to go into the races. And this is the unbridled enthusiasm we have with new people. So we see people with less than 10 years experience making more money than people with 10 years experience, and you're telling me you don't think that's true? I'm thinking, boy, that's an easy path to see. I think it really is. What does that tell us? Well, maybe our attitude has a hell of a lot more to do with our success than our experience does. You thought about that? Think about it. I think it does. I just saw this with the San Francisco Giants the other night. They had a rookie who came up, a shortstop. Couldn't believe his shit. They were talking about this on the pregame show. They're saying he showed up. He was the first one to have his uniform on. He was the first one to go do warm-ups, to do his stretches, to run his drills. He was the first one to hit the infield to sag grounders. He took batting practice and took twice as much time as he was supposed to. He was running around giddy. He actually threw a ball from shortstop over to first base at 94.5 miles an hour. And when he did it, it was the hardest throw a shortstop had thrown all year for any team in baseball. Do you think maybe he was a little jacked up? A little excited about making the big leagues for the first time? Running all around the place like a lunatic. By the way, got a base hit too. And the veterans on the team were saying how relieving it was and how inspiring it was to see a young kid come to the big leagues with that level of enthusiasm because they hadn't seen it in a long time. And it reinvigorated the old salty dogs out there. So when we talk about a loan officer with 1 year experience not making as much or making more money, shit, yeah, I can see a path here. Maybe enthusiasm does have more to do with our success than we give it credit for. This is our frame of mind. This is a mindset game in a lot of ways. And finally, here's something to think about. If we have to change our ways, and we'll talk more about this going forward, guys. But as we are dealing with attrition, and I told you how the California loan officer is making less money than other states, even though we have higher loan balances and higher sales prices because we just have more people. We have more loan officers. Our loan officer to client ratio is out of whack compared to other states. Well, rest assured, you guys staying in this business as a realtor or a lender, period, is helping your business. Because the longer you stay in when your competition gets out means that your ratios of potential clients to salespeople, realtors, or lenders is improving to your advantage. Attrition in time in and of itself is one of the best tools that you can have, so sticking in there is wildly important. But don't lose this opportunity that we have right now in front of us. This isn't a time to run away from your business and go on vacation. This isn't a time to blame others or blame markets for what's going on right now. This is a time for growth because this market will make the next champions. And who are the next champions going to be? It's being decided right now. I'll leave you with this. Before 2008, there was a bunch of big mortgage companies out there, a bunch of big wholesalers out there, huge. independently owned. How many of those large 2005, 6, and 7 independent mortgage companies, independently owned mortgage companies are still here today? Can you think of one? I'm talking the big boys. Not the little ones who got big, but the big ones who sat on their hands. The biggest of them. Here's a hint, they're all gone. It was the little nimble brokerages and independent mortgage bankers who saw a vision and were still hungry, who found a way to become the big bad lions of this market. If they hold on for the next market, some will, some won't. Some of those small companies that got big, they're sitting on their laurels right now, flying in fantastic jets, going to exotic locations, buying expensive tickets, and reading their press clippings. And while they're doing that, getting their manicures and pedicures, mark my word, they're smaller companies and smaller individual loan officers who are hungry and they're grinding it out at the metaphorical gym. Are you going to be one of those gym reps who kicks ass? Or are you going to be going and getting a pedicure? Food for thought, guys. I hope this helps, and I hope to talk to you more often. And do me a favor with any messages or any questions, just send it to me over here. Send an instant message to thenationalrealestatepost.com. With that said, I will talk with all of you, hopefully mañana. Au revoir.